Welcome to my latest YouTube video. I'm Rosenberg, the author of The Human Magnet Syndrome and the creator of the Codependency Cure treatment program. Today I want to talk to you about one of my favorite subjects, and it's about denial. First of all, did you know that denial is an acronym? Yeah, it certainly is. Don't even know I am lying. Don't even know I am lying. By the way, if you're really paying attention, you know that no is spelled K, not an N, but let's forget that little fact. Don't even know I'm lying. The reason that description is so important, it helps my clients, and I want to help you understand that denial is not something you do, it's something that happens to you. There is an explanation for conscious denial. That you do not want to accept that you don't like to clean your house and your car, and you feel perfectly good about that, and your life is a mess. And you know you're just not trying to think about it, because if you did think about it, you'd have to clean it up and you might get upset. Well, that is the classic form of denial, where you are consciously trying to push something out of your mind so you don't have to experience what I would call the emotional consequences or feel responsible for something that actually bothers you. But the denial, SLDs, people who are self-love deficient, or otherwise known as codependents, denial is a very, very important function that was developed in their childhood, that was carried forward into their adulthood, where it doesn't serve the level of importance that it used to be. If you're a child of a narcissistic parent, and because of the human magnet syndrome, a codependent parent, you are going to have experienced intense, overwhelming trauma as a child. And that could be the form of abuse, verbal, emotional, sometimes physical, or neglect, or deprivation. That trauma I describe as attachment trauma. It's this PTSD-like experience that goes from age of birth and all the way till your teen years. Unlike post-traumatic stress disorder and classic forms of trauma that are usually episodic or chronic, this is a large swath of your life. So somewhere along your earliest years, there was a point where you could not manage the fear, the anxiety, the sadness, the anger of having a narcissistic and a codependent parent not take care of you unconditionally, not love you unconditionally, not respect you, and in addition, be subject to some form of abuse, neglect, or deprivation. Well, that pain that a child feels for not having their mommy or their daddy love them unconditionally and protect them is incredibly hard to manage. It hurts, and it hurts so much that only someone who is a self-love deficient person who has made progress in my self-love recovery treatment program, who has through the Hitch program, and that's another 6-hour video seminar that I offer at Self-Love Recovery Institute. But I'm not here to teach you about the technique of resolving this. It's to let you know that the core of your unconscious denial can be traced back to your childhood as a defense mechanism, as a manner that you were able to shut down feelings and thoughts that were so painful that maybe threatened your very existence. You shut the door and you close them. So that early on, if you wanted to say to yourself or be honest to another person that your mommy or daddy doesn't seem to love you, and you just couldn't do that, as most kids shouldn't and can't, you deny it. And you don't even know you're lying. So denial is born from attachment trauma. If you survived your childhood because of denying the horrible conditions of your upbringing, the parenting you received, the horrifying way that your mom or dad took care of you or didn't take care of you, that's a good thing. Seriously, imagine as an SLD, because I know all SLDs or codependents have this tremendous amount of emotional pain that is connected to their childhood. Imagine if that child could not shut the door, could not turn the feelings off, could not disassociate. She or he would not have been able to psychologically survive. So I am thankful for my own denial as a child, which of course I was able to resolve in psychotherapy, and so should you. But the question to ask now, are you ready to start remembering? Are you ready to stop lying to yourself? And by the way, this is not a good or bad proposition. Lying, of course, when we teach our children, is bad, and telling the truth is good. Remember, denial is not about lying on purpose. But the question is, are you ready to face your childhood, your past, your feelings, the memories that you have connected to perhaps the worst time in your life? If you are ready, please do not do it without the help of a trained professional. Because remembering something before you are strong enough, healthy enough, or healed enough could be more dangerous than helpful. But I think a lot of you guys who follow me, who have been involved in your own healing work and hopefully have been following my self-love recovery treatment program, ideas, thoughts, and recommendations, because you should know about those because of YouTube. And if you wanted to take a deep dive into the heart of my material, you probably connected to my full-length seminar videos at Self-Love Recovery Institute's website. But if you are ready to open the doors of what used to be denial, you are ready to meet a part of yourself that was disassociated from you. And the way that I teach is that part is what I call the inner trauma child. That is the girl, that little boy you used to be that had no one to protect, love, respect, and care for him or her, that survived just by shutting it down. You might be ready to remember bits of your childhood, string these bits together to have almost full memory. Maybe it's time for this. Or maybe you should get into therapy or work with a trained professional to open the doors a little bit at the time. So this whole idea, don't even know I'm lying. The last thing I want you to do is beat yourself up. If you're an SLD, you have been beaten up your whole life for being who you are. And you know this as well as I know it, and it has a lot to do with gaslighting. You've especially been beaten up when you try to get healthy or you try to hold people accountable. So this video in no way should motivate you to all of a sudden remember all of the trauma as a child. All of a sudden to start talking and confronting people that hurt you. That is why this process needs to be done with a trained healing professional. And there are a lot of individuals, especially psychotherapists, who are trained in trauma to help you not have to lie anymore. AKA, open up the door and be able to look at the little girl, that little boy you used to be, and to acknowledge him or her. From this point down, we'll say her. Just see her beautiful, sad, and tormented face and understand that things were not easy for her. You, to, in your mind, embrace her. Tell her it's going to be okay. One little memory at a time, you're going to allow her reality to come back to you. And this is the way that we take your normal SLD disassociation. Doesn't mean it's good, just typical. This is a way to bring together your dissociated self to this new, healthy, integrated self. In other words, once you get strong enough, once you get healthy enough, once you are able to not have to lie anymore and embrace every side of you, this will happen when you start to feel self-love abundance. And again, you've probably been following me, but for those who haven't followed me and know about my Codependency Cure, self-love deficit disorder is my term for codependency. Through the healing program of self-love recovery treatment, you start to come together. The child who needed to disassociate and the adult who is healthy enough to remember her. In closing, don't be hard on yourself because you're not lying on purpose. Don't be hard on yourself because you survived. Think about it. If you didn't learn how to disassociate, how to shut the doors on your pain and your distress and the reality of your life, you didn't have the tools or the ability to survive. So thankfully, you were able to shut that door. But no one told you that it's time to open it up. And you brought that into your adulthood. And if you are a typical SLD, that means you are in a relationship via the human magnet syndrome, my book, to a pathological narcissist, someone with narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, or antisocial personality disorder, or a sociopath. And you brought that forward into your adult relationships, and you are in denial with yourself and that person. In a safe environment, begin to start remembering that little girl, that little boy. Begin to accept, embrace, and integrate those parts of you that you shut down, that you now are finally healthy enough, courageous enough to experience. One day at a time, one step at a time. You can do it. I believe in you. So thank you for taking the time to listen to my talk on denial, dissociation, the healing the inner trauma child approach to integrating and healing your trauma, and your birthright to be self-love abundant, to not carry the heavy weight of your SLDD or your codependency. If you want more information about anything that I spoke about in this video, please consider purchasing my 6-hour video called Healing the Inner Trauma Child, or my Codependency Cure video. So thank you very much. Be well, and don't ever give up.